What's up, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. On this episode of the podcast, I'm delighted to welcome on Darragh Clancy. Now, Darragh runs an online fitness page on Instagram, and it goes by Coach Clancy. So, Darragh, thank you so much for jumping on. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and I guess who you work with at the moment?
Yeah, no worries at all. And so, first of all, good to, after a few years, catch up again. But yeah, so my name is Darragh Clancy from County Clare, Ennis-Diamond. But I've been travelling now for quite a while, so needed to kind of get something that would keep me on the road and be able to travel as well. So I became an online coach, which thought fitness has always been my passion anyway. So from that side of it, it just works hand in hand. In regards to the kind of people I'm working with at the moment, so at the moment it is generally it's just all general population, really. You know, anyone who I think I can help, I will do my level best to help. And to be honest, you know yourself, once you put the fundamentals in place, you can help anyone. You know, so no matter what the problem is, unless obviously there will be certain areas where, say, if it comes to, say, like competition prep and professional bodybuilders or people with different dietary reasons and so on, but 90% of the population you can help, providing you're willing to put in the work and so on to work around their problems and so on. So that's a massive thing for me. I'll try my best to help anyone.
Yeah, good. And I think what you said there is like, there's a huge aspect of it that, like, it's across the board. There's some of the foundational elements that we need to get right when it comes to weight loss and when it comes to body comp. I'd love to know some of the mistakes that you see often with people who come to you when they're looking to change their body composition, either to gain weight or to lose weight.
So a lot of it is, well, I suppose it's not even kind of mistakes they're making. A lot of it is kind of what's been put out there to them, like what they're being shown from social media and so on, looking at menus and things like that as well. And man, it's a big thing now is like calorie counts on menus, and you're looking at it and you're like, there's no way in the world that is anything accurate. It couldn't be any further off. Like, they're showing you a pizza with 150 grams of protein in it. Or like things like that, or even sometimes even the likes of trackers. A lot of people come to me, they're like, "Oh, I'm tracking my macros and so on," and I look into it, but like the brands and so on could be off, even using MyFitnessPal. Like I've seen some crazy ones there where it's like showing like a kind of regular cola and things like that. You know, there's carbs in it. It'd be telling you there's fucking sorry for swearing, but 20 grams of protein in a can of Coke. Like, and if you don't know these things, it's very hard to actually track them accurately. You're doing nothing wrong yourself. It's just misinformation. And then obviously as well with social media and influence and all that kind of thing as well, there's a lot of false information going around as well. So yeah, that's one thing in it. Obviously then as well, it's just trying like a few other issues then, like say with some of my current clients that I'm trying to help them fix could be say training too hard, try eating too little food, not tracking enough, putting all their emphasis into one thing. So either putting all their eggs in one basket, whether it be training, or putting all their eggs in one basket, whether it be nutrition, you know, so they're not doing that kind of overall approach. Whereas realistically, what I do with everyone, I'd be making sure they're keeping an eye on their training, nutrition, cardio, supplementation if needed, vitamins and that kind of thing as well, because there's much more to it. And I think a lot of people don't know how to kind of balance them all out.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was having a conversation with a client recently on, like, obviously different clientele, but very similar principles on what you have to apply across the board when it comes to health. But I was having a conversation with a client recently about, they were giving out that their pain was high or the injury was still there. Now, a lot of the people that I work with are chronic pain patients, people who have, the pain has been going on for a couple of years at a time. And in this case, this lady was saying that, okay, the pain was really high on a Monday. I have no idea why. And I'm doing everything right. I'm doing all the exercises you're giving me. I'm doing all the strength. And I'm drinking all the water you're telling me to. And I was like, okay, grand, let's look at the week that's gone by. And we looked at the week, and basically every day she was doing all of the exercises perfect, but her sleep was like 4 to 5 hours a night, most nights. Right. So what I was saying to her is basically you can do all of the work in the world. You can do all of the rehab in the world. But if you're not taking care of the foundational elements, if you're not taking care of something like your sleep, the pain is still going to be high. Even if the injury is healing and it's improving, you're still going to feel like you're going around in circles. Do you find that happens with your own clients?
100%. And that's why, like in my checking sheet, I look into everything. I look into stress levels, look into menstrual cycles of females and so on, because obviously with them, their weight is up and down like a yo-yo. And for likes of me dealing with that weekly, like they're all are looking for is the scales to go down. Whereas one thing I'll try and implement with a lot of people is actually trying to focus on getting leaner and not getting lighter, because that pretty much takes the pressure away from the scales, you know. Whereas, you know, like everyone is just fixated on the scales. But yeah, so like you'd be looking into like stress, as you said, sleep. Other people, then are brilliant for 6 days a week. You know, they could nail everything 100%. Day 7, they could go out. Like, say if you're in a 200 calorie deficit for 6 days, you're in a 1200 calories deficit for the week. Day 7, you eat a 2000 calorie pizza. You put on a little bit of weight. You say, I've only had one off-pan meal. But that off-pan meal has offset everything you've done for the week. So you need to kind of look into that side of it as well. So it may just be one very, very small variable that is stopping anyone from making progress in anything, even as you said, like with yourself, with someone who's not sleeping.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. It's an interesting one, because we always feel like we're doing everything right, but generally there's only one little thing that you need to change, and it makes a big. It's like that 80-20 rule, where 20% of your results come from, 80% of your results come from 20% of your inputs. When you look at, when you look at, let's say my own case, right? It's a simple example. So I grew up boxing. Keeping weight down was a huge thing, and I never struggled keeping weight off too much. Okay, it was always now I did it in all the wrong ways, in terms of like stopped eating, would starve myself for weigh-ins, would do all of that. Now at this stage, I actually struggle to put weight on. So what would be your perspective on that?
So it's a very common one as well. People are different. So you've a few different. You've obviously the people who struggle to lose weight, the people who struggle to gain weight. But the answer to them is, it generally remains the same. It will always be consistent. It may be harder for some people than others, but it's just being trust in the process. Obviously, if you're looking to gain weight, you just need to be in a steady, stable calorie surplus. If you're trying to lose weight, you just need to be in that little bit of a deficit. And if you're doing that, if you're in a calorie surplus, and if you're progressive overloading in the gym, so if you're lifting more load each week, if you're getting stronger and stronger in each exercise, scientifically, I know that everything runs off science, but so 9 times out of 10, you will eventually start to put on weight. Some people are blessed. My case is a little bit different. So I put on weight very, very, very quickly, but I also lose weight very, very quickly as well, which isn't it for me. I'd rather be one or the other, because when I'm dieting or when I'm gaining, it means that I'm kind of in and out of phases pretty quickly, because if you go a little bit too high too quick, you're just going to put on body fat. And that's the last thing you want, because then you have to pull back to a mini cut. Whereas when you're trying to, say, drop weight, if you're dropping weight too quick, you're doing the opposite, because you're just going to, like, who knows, you could burn a little bit of muscle tissue or whatever, you could flatten out too soon. So yeah, the most important thing is being consistent over time, trust in the process, and patience.
Okay. Well, let's say it's coming into the summer, right? I'm trying to get up to just throwing it out there. Let's say I try to get up to, I don't know, 75 kilo. I'm maybe 72 now. I don't want to put on a lot of fat at the same time, but I want to get a steady gain over the next couple of months. How would you approach that?
So the general approach you'd be taking would be, obviously, looking, macros are a massive thing here. So you generally want to make sure that you're putting in, so calories are one thing, but macros are another, which is why with my clients, I'll generally work closer to macros. They can track food if they want, but I will give them a detailed meal plan. So it'd be all well and good giving them, say, right, your maintenance calories are 2,000. If you eat 2.5, or say 2,250 calories, you will be in a calorie surplus. But there's a big difference of calories from, say, 2,250 calories from chocolate and 2,250 calories from eggs, you know, and the result you're going to get is varied, because you have to look into every nutrient has its own goal. So you want to be getting your surplus, but making sure that on the days you're lifting weights, this is my approach. You always want to make sure that you're putting a majority of your carbs pre and post workout for fuel and recovery. Keep proteins through the day, and this is going to help you grow. Proteins into this, the whole lot. Just again, keeping consistent, but not setting your calorie surplus too high, and not sitting on one thing thinking, right, science said this, my maintenance calories are 2,000, I only need 2,200. Your metabolism could be different to everyone else on the planet. You may actually need a little bit more, so you just slightly taper it up week to week as you're going. Monitor your weight, monitor your muscle mass, and if you see you're growing, leave it be. If your weight is either dropping or holding, you can afford to push that a little bit more, but not pushing too much that you do gain that unwanted body fat.
Yeah, okay. Good points. Yeah, it's something that I try all the time, to, not all the time, but as I said, it's easy to drop weight, but
Yeah.
putting it on and keeping it on it is a bit of a challenge. Like when I was in Argentina last year, the focus, I was training a lot of jiu-jitsu, and we were training a good bit, so I was trying to take in a lot of calories, but I was also trying to gain weight at the same time. And I set my target to like 3,500 calories, which was a massive jump up from what I originally did. It's a huge struggle to get there. And exactly as you said, 3,500 calories, like at a certain stage, it was just becoming ice cream, sweets from the shop. You know, it was everything.
That's what people do, you know, it's just dirty bulk, where it's like, I've tried it all and I can, like, it's not easy 3,500 calories worth of proper food, but
No.
it's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah.
So I've done both, but I've learned.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. And so what would you look at then in that case? How would you, like 3,500 calories of like healthy food is tough. How would you get it in?
So what you're looking for there, it's like, it's almost like when you're cutting as well. So when you're cutting, you want to use the most satiating food. So like you'd be swapping the likes of, say, rice for potato, because for like 100, say this is just like, it'll be close enough, but it's not exact. 150 grams of potato would be the same as 100 grams of rice. You're getting 50% more food. Whereas you'd be doing the opposite when you're trying to push up weight. So say 100 grams of potato, you may have 20 grams of carbs. This is cooked weight or whatever. And generally then, say pasta, you might have 40 grams of carbs in 100 grams. So you're only eating 100 grams of food, but getting twice the amount of calories, well, twice the amount of carbohydrates. And then you can also swap your meats around as well. So if you swap the likes of a chicken for steak, which is higher fat, meaning your calories are going to be higher as well. So you're still hitting your protein, but you could be getting 2.5 times the amount of calories. Swapping the likes of whitefish for salmon, because you're getting 2.5 times the calories. And then you do the opposite, vice versa, when you're cutting down. So you go from the red meats and then the oily fish back to the leaner cuts. So you're eating more and burning less. And then, as I was saying, when you're pushing up, you're eating the same quantity of food, the same weight of food, but getting more calories, if that makes sense.
Yeah, excellent, man. That's a really, really good point. That's a really good point, because for me, I never even considered it from that perspective. I always looked at just try get it in and then track it on MyFitnessPal. But as you said, when you break it down into how they're broken up,
obviously as well, then like you need to be looking into say your training performance too. Like if you're slamming in so much food, it's going to make it lethargic. Your performance is going to be on the floor. So you want to try and get in you want a good balance, you know, of being able to eat enough food to perform well, but also not be lethargic at the same time, and to be able to grow, or whatever your goal is. So there's a lot to be taken.
There's a lot to be taken. There always is, though, isn't there? When you get into the finer details, there's a lot more. And any foods that you think that you've come across, I guess, I don't like to demonize foods in any way, but I'm saying, is there anything that when you're looking at people that are training for performance or who are working in a busy lifestyle, any foods that are more commonly make you lethargic? Have you ever come across that?
So, obviously, like your processed stuff, and like it could come down to as well. Like I've often seen people there. Like I could travel. I could do 50 flights a year. And so I did that a couple of years ago when I was just literally hopping from Ireland to England to Dubai to Spain, everywhere. I went through this little bit of a travel buzz, but I was going around like seeing to client shoots and so on. And I spent, would you believe that when I first moved to Dubai, I lived in a hotel for 10 weeks. You can't get rent here without Emirates ID. And I moved here during Ramadan, so they couldn't process anything. They told me come for 10 days and it'll all be sorted. 10 weeks later, I was in the same hotel. So when it comes to eating foods on the go, like that's something where I can really help people.
Yeah.
So like, again, it'll come down to like if you're spiking your insulin in the morning, say if you're having a bowl of cereal in the morning, like you're going to be hungry for the day after, you know, you're going to be craving more and more. Whereas if you can just keep nice and satiated through your fats, or say even swap your carbs for cleaner stuff, so like swap cereal for oats, and then obviously they'll digest type 1 too. Or if you can go for like an egg omelette or whatever. Some people, I did a lot of my eating from the room, so I just use my protein powder, my oats, bit of dark chocolate for your fats, whatever your calories are. Like you can work around them, you know, whatever your macros are, more importantly, you can fit them into anything. So who knows, like today you might want to have a bagel, a brown bagel, and whatever 100 grams of ham to get your protein and carbs in that way. Tomorrow then you might want to have protein powder and oats because you're running out the door, you know. And same thing, they can all be done just by cooked ham, throw it into a bagel, you know, with a bit of spread or something like, and you can still hit your macros but have a bit of variety, which is another thing as well. When you're traveling, you're not just going to want to sit in a hotel room eating old votes all day.
Yeah.
Trying to learn three things.
Yeah, and I guess that's another important point coming into the summer. Is a lot of people are going to be booking trips away, booking holidays
Yeah.
away. What's your approach then with clients who are doing that, who are, let's say, going for Tenerife for a week?
So, say what I would usually do in these cases would actually be, I'll always find out at the nearest point. So that if I can actually factor in that they can take a break. So obviously, like I had a lady sign up this morning. She's going on holiday the 26th of July. It's going to be too soon for her for a deload or a week off training because she'll only be starting.
Yeah.
But what I'll do is, like, say, for instance, another lady, she was in Canada for a couple of weeks, for 2 weeks, about a month ago. So for her, it was easy because she's been with me for like 6 months. I just planned it out that her first week was going to be deload week anyway, so she wasn't training. That took the stress off her. I
Yeah.
gave her, because she had been working with me long enough, I was confident in giving her macros instead of a meal plan, so she could kind of eat what she wanted, within reason. Obviously, tracking the likes of protein bars, stuff you can pick up, more so units instead of weighing food. Because you're not going to, if you're at your relations or if you're in a hotel, you're not going to weigh food, but you can pop in a banana, you can pop in anything that's measured like a protein bar, you can pop in a protein yogurt. All of these things can be tracked, whereas if you're trying to like eyeball a portion of rice or whatever, it's a little bit harder. So I'd always say, right, work in units as much as possible, or cups, instead of exact weight. And then when it comes to training, a lot of them, so I'll often give them like short hit metcon plans because I don't want them spending 2 hours of their day in the gym on holiday. So
Yeah.
maybe give them like a little bit of metabolic conditioning, which is where they can get it done in 20, 25 minutes. They still get a nice little pump from it. They'll still get a bit of conditioning work, a bit of cardio done, and they have time for themselves to enjoy the holiday. When it comes to alcohol and so on as well, everyone has their own choice. I'd never, like yourself, I'd never demonise anything. If people want to go out and have fun, they can. So it's things like that where you need to be working around. But so if someone was going off on a pace slot, you might try to deplete them out a little bit before, because
Yeah.
so you may run a low week the week before. So you might run low carbs and a little bit lower calories to try bank. It's not going to offset everything, but it will definitely offset something and minimize the damage. So again, it depends on the type of holiday and the person, but there's a lot of variables there. So you generally try to save time from, make the food as easy as possible for them to follow, give them pointers in regards how to save calories, tell them, send me pictures of menus that they're eating. Everyone is 24/7 support with myself. So I could get every day, I could get 10 menus sent to me on WhatsApp, and I'll just say, right, have this and take this out of your meal plan. So yeah, it depends what people want, but there's ways around it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the difference with working with a coach and somebody who understands it, who understands the process and who's been through it. It's when you say that, it really reminds me of like when I'm working with the client longer term, whether it's 12 weeks or 24 weeks or a year long, you have to know in advance when they're taking holidays, when they're going to be going to weddings, when there's different things like that, because you can factor it into the program. I think a lot of people, when you're doing this by yourself, you leave everything last minute in a lot of cases.
Yes,
so
exactly.
the holidays next week, so you start stripping everything down, no calories a week before. For me, when people start to have a holiday, when a holiday's coming up, they'll try to factor in like 3 to 4 gym sessions of rehab while they're on holiday, and then they're going to miss 2 of them, and they might get half of them in, and when they come back, they feel like they fail, and it takes them a little bit to try to get back on track again. As opposed to just saying, you're going to be on holiday, take a week off, try to go for a few walks, try to do a few hikes. As you said there, like get a metabolic conditioning session in, something that's just going to keep you ticking along, so that when you come back, you can go full steam ahead.
Exactly, and you're not coming back guilty after your holidays, well, because like people can use these weeks to their advantage as well. If it's planned, you can use it as a recovery week, or as I say, like a deload. So once you're home, then you can push hard up until, push hard after. So
and it really comes back as well then to, because when you're dealing with any of these type of issues, there's such an element of mindset involved in it. Mindset, beliefs, behaviors, your habits, everything around it. And when you're looking at discipline, I feel that, well, first off, I'd love to talk about motivation versus discipline and what your thoughts are on that. In my perspective, motivation is very fickle, but discipline, you can train it. You can really train discipline. But if you try to rely on discipline in times of where you've low willpower, let's say where you're going to be going on holiday and then you have to go to a wedding and then you're going to be falling off track, and you just say, okay, well, I'm going to throw the baby out with the bathwater and drop everything after. Like, you can affect your discipline as much as you can build it, I think, by setting things. What's your thoughts on motivation versus discipline, and how do you factor it in?
So obviously, like you said, and you'll be like well disciplined, obviously, from your background, and say like with boxing and so on, it would have been drilled into you at a low age, or like a lot of people, like we've kind of grown up with it, like say playing sports and so on. Whereas a lot of people, like, they haven't had that, or they haven't had it for a long amount of time. so they haven't needed it. So with motivation, man, like you probably notice yourself, a new client comes to you, they might be motivated for the first 4 weeks, you know.
Yeah.
It's like when you join the gym, it's January, you know, you're going to be motivated for a few weeks, but you really need to make the most of them few weeks to actually build discipline. Because the motivation isn't always going to be there, but you can actually train your discipline so that it is there when you're falling off. And especially in around these times.
Is that something that is that a conversation that you have with clients, that like the motivation is high now?
I tell them straight up, like, they'll be checking in, and I'll be looking into this. Like, I ask these questions, like, so like they'll be saying, "Oh, I'm so motivated." And the first thing I say is, right, you might be motivated now, but make the most of it, because I can guarantee you'll be saying to me in 2 weeks' time, you're finding it tough or whatever, and you're having a little bit of a lull or a dip, and that's where the discipline kicks in. And that's what separates the good results and the people that fall off, and so it's the discipline. Like.
Yeah, and do you reckon it's the setting the expectation? Like, that's a really good point that you made there, of how it's going to be. You're going to have a lot of motivation when you sign up, because that's just part of the process. But when you set the expectation that in 2 weeks' time, in 3 weeks' time, there's a possibility that's going to fall off, do you find that that's helpful?
It seems to be, because they're almost expecting it then. And again, it's like everyone. Some people will be sure, like, look, I'm always motivated in one ear out the other. I'm the same way, man. You could talk to me today, I could be the most motivated man on the planet. In a month's time, man, I could be in a heap. Like, And again, even when you are extremely disciplined, we still have the moments where the discipline fades. Like.
Yeah, exactly. After a heavy weekend, anything like that.
For one,
anything like that can drop it off. It's ridiculous. For me, I find that, like, I run a back pain course as well at the same time, and in that course, the week 1 first video, I say between week 4 and 7, you're going to have a flare up. Like, you're going to get rid of it, and it's going to come back. And if you feel that you're back at square one when it comes back, and you drop everything, you're going to get stuck in the same cycle again. Right. I think having that video at the start, when it does flare up on week 5, because it generally is around week 5, I have to always, people forget about the video, I have to refer them back and say, like, we talked about this 4 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago, that this was going to happen. Now times are tough. So it's like, I don't know if you follow Alex Hormozy. I can't imagine that you don't if you're in business. But he has a couple of great quotes, but one of them is, "This is what hard feels like." So you knew it was going to be difficult. You knew it was going to be a challenge to get over this and to put yourself in a position that you want to be in and reach your goals. And you knew that you were going to run into obstacles along the way. So this is what it feels like right now. These are the obstacles that you're running into. It's, I think sometimes setting that expectation is so important.
Because at least then they trust you a little bit more as well. You know, like, if you can, and then they're like, right, okay, you know what, he did say this was going to happen. And then, like, again, it just helps him stick through it. It gets him through it, because, as you said, once the expectation is there, it's a lot easier to explain yourself as well.
Yeah, good point. It is, because it's not like, oh, you're just making this up. It's like, I'm sure I said this. Yeah. I know that. And come here, then, what are some of the beliefs, okay, that you run into? Some of the beliefs I run into with back pain is that it's posture related, it's disc related, it's a family related issue. What are some of the beliefs that you run into that you need to break?
So a lot of them are, man, pretty much everything. You know, everything's like, anything can be fixed, you know. A lot of people will say, sure, I've been heavy all my life, or I've been skinny all my life. I can tell you, I've been both. I went from being like a ball to a laugh in the space of no time. Like, and I tell you, you can get out of them. You just have to actually trust it. Like, if you believe in yourself, keep consistent, you'll get out of anything. But it's like, that's a big one. Like, I've always been skinny, or I've always been heavy, or I've always been unfit. And I could name 100 things that I tell you I can't do every day. One, for instance, is running. You know, I say, sure, I can't run. The fact is, I'm lazy and I don't want to run. And that's me being straight up and honest. Or like, you'd have a lot of things as well, like, hormones, or people thinking, because of menopause, you know, I can't get past this because I'm menopausal. That's why I'm gaining weight. It has nothing to do with the fact that I'm out, or I'm drinking wine 7 days, 7 nights a week or anything, or the fact that I'm not training or exercising. So obviously, if you let something take over, it will take over. It will indulge your mind, and before you know it, it's a belief. And if you believe anything, it will become a fact in your own mind. And that's how you need to look at it.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And the more you say it, the stronger the belief comes. Like if you're
100%.
telling everyone, like the idea that someone says, "Oh, I have a bad back," like all the best getting over that if you're going to continue living by that. Like all
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
best getting back into the exercise that you want, getting back into the lifestyle or any of the activities, or really reaching the kind of goals that you set out for yourself. If you're going to
Yeah.
continue having that identity that your
Yeah.
back is bad. So sometimes you need to just go in and tune up the language a small bit more because it helps people.
That's it. And again, that's part of her job as well. You know, like a good coach will do that for you. And a good coach, like say for like obviously we're in different fields, but they should be kind of working on the mindset for you as well. You know, not just saying, right, okay, this is what you came to me for, because you can take a much broader approach. Because if you can get their mind right, their body will follow.
Yeah, yeah. And talk to me. How do you do that then? Like when you're looking at mindset or when you're approaching mindset with a client, how do you dive into that?
So you know, everyone's different. Some people come to you, and like I'll use myself in it as an example here. Like there's times there where I could look phenomenal, ready to go on stage, or you know, ready to do a photo shoot, and I'd be telling myself I feel like I look like shit, you know.
Yeah.
And other times then it's the opposite. I could be walking around here like a big inflamed ball of water after a bend, or a month's holiday, and I could think I look great and I feel great. So a lot of it could be like the time and there's a person in it also as well, like how long they've been in that mind frame for. So
Yeah.
some people you have to be quite gentle with. Some people as well, you'll kind of pick up if they're sensitive or not. And other people then you can just say, right, you know what, we just need to kind of suck it up here now and commit to it. Give yourself that little bit of time, actually give it a go, and see what happens.
Okay. And is there any frameworks that you like to implement or anything that you like when someone jumps on board to you and you say, okay, right, like this is a huge obstacle that we need to address, and this is how we reframe it. Do you use that much?
So it'd be something again. It works because I keep kind of close contact with a lot of my clients. So like, although it's a weekly check-in, but again, some people kind of they could be on to me every day with this, like kind of top me up on certain issues and so on and how they're getting on, and because they need that extra bit of accountability, which is absolutely fine. If someone needs all that help, they can have it. But in regards to mindset, I don't know. For me, it's kind of more so spur of the moment because one thing I've always noticed is like because all it takes is like one binge, whether it be alcohol, food, whatever, to feel like shit and to reset everything. You just have to be ready for every occasion, like, because someone could be like, honestly, like I've often seen people on like doing a prep for a holiday or whatever. They could do 10 great weeks, and they're absolutely flying it. Their mindset is flying. You don't have to worry about it at all. You're like, right, you're good to go. And then all of a sudden, you know, they go out for a bank holiday weekend and they see a little bit of water retention or they're feeling fluffy, and because of that reason, they're all all the fluff.
That's a great way. That's a great way to describe it. I know exactly what you mean with that.
But yeah, and before you know it, their mindset is back to square one, and then it's almost like, fuck, you know, I have to rebuild it again. Now we either nip it in the bud. I just give them a serious motivational speech, like, I said, you know, you've came this far. Look what you've achieved already. A few days is all I need. Just give me a few really good days here, and you'll be back to where you were. There'll be no fear, and you'll be fine. You'll be ready to go on that plane in the best shape of your life. Just give them that little bit of belief as well. And some people, then, like, they're coming to you with zero confidence whatsoever. So with them, it's a different ball game. Like, you have to, first of all, you have to be very sensitive with them, because you just don't know how they're going to react to certain things. But as you get to know them more and more, like, if I to be honest, I can't really give you a straight up answer because I treat everyone completely different. You know, everyone is their own, has their own kind of target and goals and so on.
Yeah, but it does, like everything that you said there, because it reminds me of when I'm dealing with people, like the idea of reframing it. I often use the analogy of you're the gardener and your body's the garden. And if you need to treat it properly, and what you tell yourself, what you do, the habits, the behaviors, if you go out, if you let the garden take control of itself, it's going to be overgrown. But if you go out every day and you work on getting it 1% better, trimming the trees, making sure you're pulling the weeds, just getting in there and putting things in place that in a month's time or in 2 months' time, you're going to be in a way better position, then you'll slowly but surely that will start to build on itself. And then that will give you the confidence then. That's going to give you the confidence that, okay, I see that if I do this exercise 3 times a week, I can sleep for 6 hours at night. Well, before it was sleeping for 4 hours because the pain was kicking up. And then you say, okay, grand, perfect. Now let's make a little bit more of an adjustment. Let's keep that in place and keep watering that plant. And then let's make a little adjustment over to the other side and see what we can do around getting out and getting steps in. Or even having a break and doing something that you enjoy. Like that idea of reframing it so that they are nurturing their body. It's not that they just do one thing and everything's 100%. It's like you nurture it and you need to do it over time.
Yeah, I'll use that one.
Yeah, it's a powerful one for me. It has worked. It has worked.
And you know what you're saying, like you find your own way of like wording things and so on as well. Like so like in like a bodybuilding one there, like a common one I use quite a bit as well would be almost like you're an artist, you know, like you can treat your body like an artist, you know, like a piece of stone, and then you can be chiseling away. You can pretty much have your body looking any way you want if you do the right things to it. You know, if you're patient, again, Rome wasn't built in a day, like, but if you're patient and if you just keep chipping away, you can achieve anything, whether it be in business, whether it be in, as you said, for recovering from pain, your dream physique, even just get from depression, in feeling a bit better about yourself and so on. You can use it. You can have them frameworks for pretty much anything.
Yeah, and it's a long-term vision as well. Like massive. It's like, let's not look at what you're going to be like in a month's time. Like look at it in 6 months' time, or look in a year's time. I think a really powerful one that when you look at parents is the idea of a role model as well. Because a lot of people come to me and say that I don't want to be like, I've had a bad back or a bad hip or a bad knee for the last 15 years, and I'm not able to exercise how I used to be able to. And now as a result, I'm putting on weight, or like I'm not able to control my lifestyle, and mood is dropping, everything around it. And I don't want my child to grow up looking at me in this position. Yeah. Sometimes that can be as powerful a motivator for people as anything, where it's like, you are the role model. So don't think that what you do, they're not picking up on. Exactly, and I think sometimes people need to be reminded of that, because they talk about how it's like, I want the best for them. I want it, but you can't take care of anyone else unless you take care of yourself.
Exactly, and it starts from you, and and that's a massive thing as well that I actually forgot to bring up, like, because you do get a lot of people that will come and they're filling out their consultation sheet and they're like, I want to be fit to play with even to play with their kids, not only show a good example, but just to be able to fit enough to run after the kids and stuff like that, which is like, you'd be surprised at the amount of people that'd be like that, and like yourself as well, probably more so for you, man, as if someone's crippled or in agony of pain, it's fucking hard to do anything.
Yeah, and it takes control of your life. Like, it really does. It does take like a pain, because you'll start thinking, oh, I'd love to go for that walk with friends there. I'd love to go for a hike, but I don't know if my back is going to hold up, or if my hip is going to hold up, and it's always in the back of your mind then, and you're slowly but surely, you start setting limits on yourself. Like, I'm sure that you see it with people who might come to you, and let's say their friends are planning a beach holiday, and they're kind of thinking, oh, I don't know if I want to go on that now, because I have to get in a bikini, or I have to get in a pair of shorts to get my shirt off. I'm sure that's something that you've run into in the past.
Yeah, loads. You'll always have people who'll either start last minute, or like, oh, what I look like my friends in bikini, or they come to me and say, can you have me ready for Ibiza there in a month's time?
Yeah, exactly.
I might be started in a month. You'll always have that as well, and like you said, so people just really setting limits on themselves, and people hiding away, and just not interacting with people, not going places because they don't feel good. And man, I've been in that same position. I really have. I've been in the depths of it. For example, man, over at lockdown, I didn't want to see anyone, or times as well. A great example would be after my first show. 21 competed. Got into obviously the best shape of my life at the time. But in 3 weeks, man, I put on 3 stone. Well, I can show you pictures. I can show you the pictures, man. It's on my Instagram page somewhere. Probably the biggest learning curve of my life. And because of that, man, would you believe I stayed out of a gym for about 2 years after it, because I was so fixated on how people were viewing me that I didn't want to. They were like, are you not meant to be in shape? But what's after happening? And man, that limited me so much. It took me about, I'd say, 4 or 5 years after that to get back into proper shape.
Really? And what was it that was limiting you? Is it the identity that you felt that you should have?
The identity, but also as well, man, I felt so bad. I just felt so shit, but because I didn't know how to reverse out. I wasn't showed how to reverse out. I wasn't told about rebounding after a show. I thought, oh shit, it's grand, you're shredded, you can eat what you want. And then you go into the mindset of the cycle of just eating and binging and drinking and everything as well. And before I knew it, man, I'd fucking looked at the worst that I've ever looked. And because I was just so inflamed from sugar and alcohol, probably the biggest learning curve of my life. And again, if you come back to limits, man, I limited myself for years after it. I wouldn't even wear a t-shirt, man. And then obviously that didn't help for the fact that I wouldn't go to a gym because I was limiting myself. So it just meant that I couldn't wear a t-shirt for even longer until I left Ireland. In the end, I left Ireland, and then that was like a mental reset. Moved to Canada, and I started training again.
Oh, right. Okay. Good. And come here. What were the thought patterns at that stage? Like, what were you saying to yourself? What were some of the language that you were using at that time?
That's all. It's always going to be negative shit, man, when you're in that state. But
Yeah.
it was a lot of it was like, first of all, you're thinking like, right, everyone expects you to be a shredded lad. You've spent your whole life in the gym, and because of 2 weeks now, you're back to square one. Then you're looking for excuses, and then you're feeling like we touched on earlier, man. If you tell yourself something enough, you'll believe it.
Yeah. What were some of the excuses?
Some of them were like, it was there was just so many. Like you could be. Like for a while, you think you're okay. You think you're fine because you're getting bigger. You think, oh, I'm massive. Until you see it, I'm getting bigger and getting stronger now. Just keep going. And before you know it, like you've fucking 3 stone of body fat on. Thinking back to it now. So yeah, a lot of it would have been just limiting yourself. Like, maybe change what you're doing. You were spending too much time in the gym anyway. You don't need to train.
Yeah.
It consumed your life. You shouldn't, like, you were doing too much cardio. You were hungry all the time. All of these things. You don't need to be hungry. So then before you know it, you couldn't drink for 16 weeks. So before you know it, you're saying, look, it's fine. You're justifying it for yourself to work the pub 3 nights a week.
Yeah.
And eat shit for the other 4 days. And before you know it, you're spiraling. And when you're telling yourself that for long enough, it's hard to change. But when you do change, man, you come back stronger than ever.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that I think it's important to look at how, even in your own situation, because you're in some serious shape for the last couple of years, and obviously before that, when you were in the competitions, I think it's important for people to see that the same thought patterns come in, the same language comes in for everyone, and how you use it. Yeah, like even myself. So I tore my ACL last November in a jiu-jitsu tournament, and just coming back from that has been a challenge, and it's been good. Like, it's been a nice learning curve for sure. I'm back in Ireland now. I'm trying to get back into football, so I'm back running and stuff. But there was definitely an element of when it happened of like, how could you get injured again? Like, how are you injured again? Like, you're supposed to be a physio. You're supposed to be avoiding injury. You're supposed to be doing this, that, and the other. And that can, if you let it take control of you, if you let it take over, and you let those thoughts build on each other, that becomes a very, very powerful. I would say demotivator more so than motivator.
Like a stressor as well, because before you know it, it can, like, even myself, like sometimes after cutting someone, you put on a few pounds or a few kilos, and in your case as well, like, you're talking to people about curing injuries and you're getting injured yourself, you start doubting yourself, and you really do, like, oh, should I be doing this? You almost think you're like, should I be doing this? But again, if you can show yourself you can get through it, and every time you come back, you're going to come back stronger and stronger.
That's exactly it. Like that, it builds on itself. It builds on once you can start to implement the right strategies, and you kind of keep that vision of, where you're trying to get to. I think, as opposed to where you are right now, where you have a goal set out and you're saying, I know what the goal is and what I'm trying to get to, it makes it so much easier. It makes the process so much easier every session.
Another thing there as well is obviously with yourself. So it's actually a question for you, because this is actually probably the most important part of when you reach your goal. So in your line of work, do you need to set your clients a maintenance plan after?
Yeah, that's a great question. The people that I work with are mostly chronic injuries as opposed to acute. I work with acute as well, but when you're looking at a chronic injury, what happens is that, let's say a back pain. So they injured their back 5 years ago. And then as they start to get back into exercise, their body records the injury on their nervous system. So it's not, the injury itself heals. There's no physical damage, but there's neurological protection that stays around. So they get these flare-ups every 6 to 8 weeks or 12 weeks. And the flare-ups are a result of their lifestyle and what's going on and their stress and everything around it. And then their behaviors after, okay? So when they get a flare-up, and when they realize that their thought patterns go back to, oh my God, I can't believe this has happened again. I need to get a new diagnosis. I need to get a new MRI. And they do all this. There's this massive kind of a mindset change that happens to them. And in my case, what I need to do is I need to bring them through enough flare-ups so that they understand that there's a physical aspect, but there's also a psychological aspect that they need to take care of. And then what I try to do is I try to teach them that. Like, first off, teach them, okay, this is a psychological aspect. It's going to take a while for this neurological issue to heal. And then as we push on, what I say is that to overcome this back pain or to overcome this knee pain or shoulder pain for good, for the long term, you need to have a change in identity. As I said earlier on, you can't have the idea that you have a bad back, and you can't have the idea that you have a bad shoulder, so you can't do these things. And then when you look at identity change, that really comes down to, do you build up enough confidence in yourself? Have you enough competencies in the areas that you want to show that you like don't have a bad back anymore? And to do that, then you have to set goals. So it's like what I say, my maintenance plan for people is basically, right, when we finish this, I need you to look at, depending on their goals, what they want to do. I need you to make sure that you are training for a marathon, or that you are training for a hike, or that you are getting back and you're training in football or jiu-jitsu or with a club. You're continuing to train towards the identity of what you have, or what you want, I should say. And when the flare-up happens, you don't stop everything. You let the flare-up pass, you continue with your behaviors, and then you get back into the activity that you want to be, because that will change your identity as someone who has a bad back to someone who's now a runner, someone who has a bad knee to someone who plays football, senior football. Yes, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, man. It's funny how it all ties in together, isn't it? Like everything, there's such a connection between the body and the mind.
That's crazy.
I think if you can understand that, you can be extremely good at what you do.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm not just going to say, like, because a lot of the time, like, say when I've had injuries or whatever, and you go to physio or a chiropractor or whatever, they get you over pain, but then, like, it's almost like they're nearly not telling you what to do in case so you have to come back to them again. You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's almost a thought. But it's like, well, yeah, I will always either reverse someone out of a plan, or I'll make sure that they're set moving forward. So I'll always kind of give them a couple of weeks there where I'll review everything to make sure that the changes we've set in their final weeks are working, first of all, and that they can maintain it forward, so that their goals are locked in, not so that just they're dependent on me for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
So it's funny how it works, even in the physio world. Like,
it's the same. Yeah, especially when you're looking at the chronic injuries. One of the last questions then, Darragh, because I don't want to hold you too much longer. You say reverse out of a plan. What does that mean, to reverse out of a plan?
So reversing out of a plan is, so first of all, it's usually for someone, like if someone's coming for lifestyle coaching, it's fine, because you're getting them set up within their lifestyle means. So they're training to their lifestyle needs. They might be training 3-4 times a week, whatever they're comfortable with. They're eating foods they enjoy. They're eating enough food for everything, which is fine. Generally, they'll be set for life moving forward. Whereas if you're peaking someone for a shoot or a show, or if someone's doing a holiday prep, say for instance, like yourself, if you came and you said, right, okay, I want to be shredded in 12 weeks time, that's fine. You're looking at 12 weeks, but it could take another 8 to 12 weeks after that to get you back to maintenance, because it's all well and good. You're going to have to go a lot more aggressive. Like, and this is something you have to explain to people as well. People who come to me say, could you prep me for a shoot? And I'll be like, if I know you're the right person, work with me for a little bit of time, and I'll see if you're good. If you're able to do it, we'll then lock in a date. But remember as well, we need to actually reverse out of it. So always plan ahead. So what you're doing is, because you have to go more aggressive, you explain this to everyone. You say, right, you're going to be hungry, you're going to be tired, you're going to be cranky, you're going to be moody. Because to get to them levels of body fat, and you're going to have to, first of all, train more than the average person. You're going to have to do more cardio than the average person. You're going to have to make sacrifices that the average person doesn't want to do. And so then all of it, so then as well with your food, you're going to have to diet harder to get to that level of condition, and everything else that comes with it. Then you're going to have to sleep, recover efficiently, and so on as well. Mind yourself and keep your mindset right. So with that, then when you get there, you're going to be very, very kind of low. So if you just went from saying eating 2,000 calories a day for a couple of weeks before your show, and all of a sudden you're the day after, this is what happened to me, and this is how I learned the hard way. So this is practice I should preach. So I literally came off stage and I ate like a 12-pack of donuts, went back to the hotel room, and I'm not messing. I've pictures of it somewhere. I thought it was cool, like showing people on Instagram how much food I could eat and how many calories I can eat.
Yeah.
And I was coughing down, man, like, fucking, couldn't, like 50 bars of chocolate. Then we went down to Dublin the night after, got absolutely pissed. Joe, you think all this thing is cool, but it's because we've been deprived. So I wasn't told anything about it. I was never told we need to be careful after this. I was like, everyone was saying, oh, that's class, people eat more.
Yeah.
I was never given the information that, right, okay, for you have to be very careful for a few weeks after. You maybe have one donut and then reverse out correctly. So you very slowly start to titrate things out. So you start cutting back on your training and your cardio. You very gradually start to build your calories back up to maintenance. And then when you have things level there, you sit in it for a little bit of time, lock in your condition, lock in your new like your new habits, your patterns, your new lifestyle, all of these things. And then when you know, that's when you can start to adjust and set new goals. But because you're coming down, you have to come back up. And that's what reversing back out is. So it's more important than any cut.
Okay. So you set that over like an 8-week period is what it is.
So it'll depend on the person as well, because like some people, what can happen is no matter what, they could binge for a week after.
Yeah.
Then you have to pull that water weight back off again, and it could take another 2 weeks. So before you know it, there's 1 week of binging, 2 weeks of cutting water, and then you have to try again. So there's no set time on it, but I would always be very patient with it. I'd be very gradual and very patient.
Okay, nice. And I guess then that's a great point, because I think a lot of people don't consider that as much, that reverse out. And even when you ask me that, I like the way you phrase that with the maintenance, because I look at it identity more so than the maintenance, but it is exactly what it is. It's a maintenance. It is a maintenance because you need to have the maintenance and consistency to actually get the identity in the first place.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
It's a powerful one. I guess then the last question, Darragh, is when you're looking at clients who've really been successful and successful long term with you, people that you've worked with, what are some of the traits, some of the habits, some of the behaviors, or even the identities that they have taken on that's allowed them to be successful and maintain a healthy relationship with their body and a healthy relationship with their mind?
So a big one really would be being willing to learn as you're going along, as you're on the journey, like being willing to learn. So like what I do is when I'm doing check-ins, I don't just say, right, here's your check-in, off you go. I'll educate everyone. So like I'll be like, right, this is why we're doing it, and if we don't do this, this is what's going to happen. And so on. So like if the people who pick up a lot of education, the people who don't rush it and aren't rushing towards goals, and then obviously motivation and discipline come in massively here as well. So anyone successful in anything, Robbie, you know yourself, they have to have whatever about motivation. They might have no motivation, but if they're disciplined, they will get where they want to be. And I think a lot of it comes back to that.
Yeah. Okay. So it's really it's building that foundation, so they have the education to work on, and then having the discipline to stay on track for a longer period of time. Yeah. Yeah. I really, really appreciate you jumping on. I know you're coming back to this side of the world fairly soon. I just landed back here myself, so we'll have to meet for a coffee when you're back at some stage. But I really appreciate you jumping on, man. Excellent podcast. I think we covered so much there. Especially, I think one big point that stood out to me was, as you mentioned there, if you're looking to bulk, you need to take in certain foods that have more calories and are less per gram, less volume. That's a huge one for me, because I never really considered that as much. And obviously the opposite works then as well for people. But is there anything that, I guess, where can people find you, and who's a good suit for you, for like, if you're talking to people listening to this podcast, who's a good suit for people that you like to work with?
To be honest, anyone who's looking to make a change. And one thing in particular that I really like to work with are, because I've been through it myself, is people who are kind of struggling a little bit from the mental side of things and the mindset side of things. Okay. Because I feel there I can make a change, and that's where I really want to make a change. It's not all about getting people shredded. It's great to get people shredded and get a great transformation, but the ones that really last with me and the ones that stand out with me are the ones that mentally change. You can see their confidence is coming back. They're getting their personality, everything's coming back. They're the ones that I love, and these are quite often the ones you can't see. But they're the ones that mean the most. So anyone in that frame, but obviously anyone who wants to get in shape as well, I'll help out. Anyone looking to find me then. I'm not the best for content, but I'll get there. Another thing I've been putting off for quite a while. But if anyone needs any help or just a general chat or anything, just Instagram, Darragh Coach Clancy. I have a website there. I think it's just Coach Clancy. And then you'll find my WhatsApp. If anyone wants a personal chat or anything with me, I'm more than happy to help. Just get my Instagram, on my Instagram you'll find my WhatsApp number. So I'll help anyone. Excellent.
Okay, yes, that's all from us this week. Again, thanks a million for Darragh for jumping on. Really, really appreciate it. Great chat. And I will chat to you all at the same time next week. Have a good one.